Good afternoon. Welcome to our County Commission debate. We're so thrilled you could be here. My name is Mike Horner. I'm president of the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber of Commerce. We want to start off by thanking our sponsors. First off, our title sponsor, Kissimmee Utility Authority. Thank you very much, KUA. We want to thank our good friends at Walt Disney World. Thank you very much for sponsoring. Thank you to Manhattan Construction. Thank you for sponsoring today. And of course, our host today is Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center. Thank you, Gaylord. And thank you, Access Osceola, for taping this for broadcast. We're going to jump right into it with a 1-minute opening statement from each of our candidates, and we're going to begin with Brandon Arrington.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. My name is Brandon Arrington. I am your County Commissioner for District 3. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve you the last 4 years. And I do have to say that the last 4 years have been quite an interesting one in government. We have actually cut $100 million in taxes, and we've cut almost 400 employees, which have now brought our employee level to less than the year 2000, and I now serve twice the population. In that time, I've built me, being the commission, have worked to build $400 million worth of roads. We've waived impact fees to increase development in our community. We've also going to make Sunrail a reality. We built a southern operations base for Lynx, so our buses now start and end here in Osceola County. That's created a $500,000 annual saving. We just implemented another $1 million of service because of it. Those are all good things, but we still have a long way to go, and we still have a lot of great things to do here in Osceola County. So with your vote and your support, we can make that happen. Thank you for your time.
Next up, Jeffrey A. Goldmacher.
And thank you, Mike. As an active member of most of the community groups that are located in District 3, I have the opportunity to interact with a lot of the residents in the district. And the common thread that I hear from the residents is that they feel that they've been abandoned on the county commission level. They feel that their county commission has been the invisible man. They feel the only time that anything comes up is when he wants to raise the sales tax by 1% or add a nickel to your gas tax. Well, like the residents of District 3, I am tired of them reaching into my pocket and taking my money that gets used for things that don't need to be done. As a successful businessman, I intend to run the district and the county as more like a business-like and save your hard-earned money for what you really need it for, not the counties. Thank you.
Our first question, first of all, let me introduce our panel. We have an outstanding media panel, and I want to recognize the editor of the Osceola News-Gazette, Brian McBride. Thank you for being here, Brian. And we have the publisher of El Osceola Star, Bill Hanson. Thank you, Bill. Our first question will come from Mr. McBride.
Thank you. Candidates, as you are campaigning, what are the biggest concerns you're hearing from residents, and how, as part of the commission, would you address them?
And Mr. Goldmacher, you're first.
The biggest concerns that I've heard from the residents is that they don't have access to the county commission. There is no way that their concerns get heard on the county commission at the meetings, and when things do come up at the county commission, they're not listened to by our current county commissioner. I intend to open up a satellite office in the district that'll be open 2 nights a week and on Saturdays for the residents to come to me and talk to me about things. I will continue my involvement in all the community groups that are involved in the district so that I can know what's going on with the residents and I can react much faster to them.
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. The biggest issues and concerns that I've seen from talking to voters walking door to door the past 5 to 6 months is opportunities in Osceola County. And by opportunities, we currently export 75% of our workforce every single morning out of Osceola County. That means every morning, 75% of us wake up and drive somewhere else to go make a living. And then at night, we all get in our cars and we drive back into our towns. That's 2 hours of your life you're not going to get back every single day. Those are the opportunities my folks are looking for in our community. They're not looking for a guy to wear a crown and a sash and go to events. They're looking for someone to be in office and make tough decisions and move things forward. We're moving forward on the Point Siena Parkway, which will be a reality before long. You'll have 3 Sunrail stations in Osceola County by the end of 2015. Those are the concerns that we have in our community. They're looking for jobs. They're looking for answers. They're looking for better education opportunities. One of the things we've been working on Mackover Street Park is changing that from a regional park to an education Educational Village. We've been in discussions with Valencia, UCF, and also the YMCA to start changing that complex. It's 500 acres the county's owned for 300 years, and it's not 300 years, I'm sorry, 30 years, and it's about time we start moving it forward. So those are the real concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson, the next question's from you.
Yes, Poinciana Parkway. Who should be responsible for the road?
Mr. Arrington, who should be responsible for Poinciana Parkway?
Thank you. As we're moving forward in our negotiations, Osceola County should be responsible for that roadway. And the reason I say that, because if you make it a private entity roadway, we are not going to be able to make the connections to I-4, 429, and Southport. And the reason I say that, because we've already had discussions with the DOT and also the Turnpike Agency. We've had them in our office. We've been having discussions for the last 8 months. And they specifically have told me if we privatize that road, which is through a private vendor or through Avatar, their cooperation will not happen. It's up to us to create and control our own destiny. If we give that road and that opportunity to a private vendor, those are future revenue dollars. They're not coming back to your community to build and expand our beltway around Osceola County. So it should be Osceola's responsibility when we're working with Avatar to make it a reality. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Goldmacher.
This was a road that was originally planned by Avatar, the original developer for Poinciana. This was something that they've signed a concurrency agreement for, they got money for, and they couldn't come up with the money to finish it because the cost just ballooned. It is something that Osceola has to do because the residents of Poinciana need another way out of Poinciana. And it's something that Osceola is going to have to take care of through the Expressway Authority. And they have to be able to raise the money and have the tolls. So yes, it must be in Osceola. It can't go private because of the fact that you can't get the DOT to give us the money. But it's a shame that we had to go down this route.
Next up, our question is from Mr. McBride.
How much financial resources, if any, should the county lend with projects in the city of Kissimmee, such as the Vine Street redevelopment project and the Lakefront Park?
Mr. Goldmacher.
Well, the Lakefront Park is basically a city property, and basically we let it be done by the city. The county shouldn't get involved in that whatsoever. The Vine Street project, yes, the county should work with the city on that, especially when it gets down to on the West 192. We should be involved. We should get out of the way of the businesses so that they can do what they do best, create jobs, because that's what this is all about. We have to be able to create jobs for those 3,000 homeless kids that are living in hotels. Their parents have to work so they could get homes and live a comfortable life like they did before this recession.
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you, sir. On both of those different issues, for instance, the Vine Street CRA corridor, it's imperative. We're looking at the CRAs all along 192, and obviously the city of Kissimmee encompasses a large portion of that corridor, and it's imperative that we work with them to revitalize that. That's a large percentage of tax base throughout the county and also for the city is in that area, and if we can revitalize it and help increase those taxes throughout the community, it's a great way to go. As far as the city of Kissimmee Park, I have a different view than my opponent. It's not necessarily that we should be funding it, but we should be working with the city of Kissimmee to be able to make the connections to that park for all residents. That's why we've been working in Osceola County and doing a master trail plan throughout Osceola County. Finally making connections for Shingle Creek to get us to the lakefront, to get us over to the city of St. Cloud's lakefront. But we haven't had that visioning, we haven't had that planning, and that's why we've got to continue to work with both of our cities, because we're fortunate enough to only have two, because if you get a lot more, it gets a lot more cantankerous. So we have to continue to work with them to make all those amenities work. There's a lot of communities in Osceola County that don't have those opportunities. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Hanson.
With very little or no impact fees, will you increase gas taxes to generate more revenue for the county, for the infrastructure?
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you. As far as county impact fees, we as the County Commission have been doing a traffic revenue study on how to pay for your transportation. When I first got into office, we had almost $900 million worth of roadways that needed to be construction, and we didn't have a financing plan. In the time, our commission has worked forward to build $400 million worth of those roadways. We've still got $500 million worth to go. And if we don't have impact fees, you have to have a way to pay for transportation. I would tell you I'd be more lenient, my personal own opinion, is more lenient on commercial development because we need to work towards creating a balanced tax base here in Osceola County. It's one of the biggest problems we have. As I said earlier, 75% wake up and leave our community every single day. So we have to be honest and have a way to pay for transportation.
Mr. Goldmacher.
When the impact fee came in front of the county commission. I was one of the gentlemen that got in front of the county commission and spoke against impact fees. I spoke against it basically because I know how well Polk County was doing once they got rid of their impact fees. I believe that we could use tax increment financing to fund the roads that we need, both residential and commercial. If you take an empty piece of land and it's taxed at a certain rate, you put something on that property, it's going to be taxed more. That difference can be used to support the road work that needs to be done. And that's the way I would finance road work.
Our next question comes from Mr. McBride.
The county is currently doing its best to lure in new business, but how would you go about helping the local businesses that are currently struggling because of the economy?
Mr. Goldmacher.
It's always nice to say that we've brought companies from outside this county to this county and build, but we cannot forget our small businesses that have been the backbone of this county for so long. I think we have to get rid of some of the permitting processes that get in their way. I think that we have to help those businesses on 192, especially the hotels. I would propose, and I have it in my platform, and I've had it there for about 9 months now, that we give them a sales tax break. Cut the sales tax for them if they want to make major improvements to their business. Then work out something with the state tax, or maybe giving them a grant so they don't have to pay for it. If they're looking to put money into their business, we should be able to help them out by reducing the burdens on them and reducing their sales tax.
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you. As far as economic development for our current businesses, one of the things that we did when I first got elected was creating a local vendor preference policy here in Osceola County. I've said $400 million several times tonight about roadway construction, but the key component of it is 75% of that went back to local vendors here in Osceola County. The processes that my opponent talks about, we've actually streamlined and received national recognition for the streamlining of our permitting process. We actually have paperless permitting, so now you can not only do it more efficiently, you can do it cheaper. So we are on the cusp of making things happen. But one of the biggest things that is a component not only of current businesses here, but future businesses, is having adequate infrastructure for the moving of goods and services. If your employees can't get to and from work, you're not going to have employees. If you can't move your goods and services, you're not going to have a business. A good infrastructure is key to moving things forward, and that's one of the things we continue to work on. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson, next question's from you.
Yes. Do you support do you agree with the sports fields project at the Judge Land presented by you, SSSA, or what will you change?
Mr. Arrington.
The proposal that was currently put forward on the Judge property, there's some issues that I think still have to be resolved. I have major concerns with the way it is presented because I do not want to create another Osceola Heritage Park for the community of Osceola County. And by that, I mean a debt project that has to be currently taking debt from our TDT dollars and putting it towards a sole project such as that. We're talking about a private-public partnership, and the key word in that is partnership. And we have to make sure that whatever agreement's put forth is a valid partnership that's going to validate what we're here today, put more heads in beds, more sales tax revenue in our coffers, but also it's not going to take away from other opportunities. So there's still some things we have to work out. And also I'm still interested to see how the evolving of Champions Gate with their new fields and also Harmony and the additional fields they have there. And we just have to make sure we do the best with that property we can. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Goldmacher.
When I first heard about the Judd Farm property and that it was being tied to the Poinciana Parkway, I couldn't believe it. This is not the way we should be dealing with companies that are looking to sell this property. It was a great price at $150,000, but if we don't do things for the Poinciana Parkway, we got to spend over $3 million for that property. We need the property to build more fields so that we get more heads in beds, so we get more tournaments here. But there's a better way of structuring it, and the two projects should be stand alone and not be put together and tied to each other.
Our next question comes from Mr. McBride.
Do you believe county commission seats should be nonpartisan, and why?
Mr. Goldmacher.
I supported the issue of letting the nonpartisan county commission go to the ballot and let the voters decide. Unlike my opponent, I trust the voters to make the proper decision. That doesn't mean that I will vote one way or the other on it. That's my personal decision once I get into the ballot box. But the residents of the county deserve the right to decide if the county commission should be nonpartisan or not. And I'm very happy to say that the chamber was able to get enough so it will be on the general election so that we don't have to spend over $300,000 for a special election. The voters should have the opportunity to make that decision, and I trust that they will make the proper decision.
Mr. Arrington. Mr. McBride, did you ring that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Goldmacher, do you believe that the county commission seats should be nonpartisan?
I personally would vote no once it got to the ballot box, but I do support the idea that the residents should have that chance to vote nonpartisan or not.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arrington.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, there's a process in place for things to get placed on the ballot. That's why we as county commissioners create policy and procedure. There was a policy to allow things to get placed on the ballot. The chamber followed those, and now it's on there. I'm not one for circumventing the laws in order to help someone out. That's not what we're here as folks that make up laws and regulations for your community. As far as nonpartisan goes, I think it's a detriment to our minority community in Osceola County if we go to nonpartisan elections. And the reason I say that is if you look at historical data from our supervisor of elections site, you can buy a disc for $15 and do your research. It will show you that predominantly in primary elections, minorities have a lack of voting history. Also, independents have a lack of voting history. I believe the voter turnout for independents in this last primary was 17%. So I have some concerns with what that will do, mainly because I'm afraid the federal government's going to come back in here and sue us again, like they did several years ago and made us go to single-member districts as opposed to at-large. So I have some concerns, and I represent a very diverse community, so I have to represent all those folks.
I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm going to encourage both candidates not to give their answers to the panel, but speak into the microphone and give it to the audience, so that'll make sure we pick you up on the microphone. Mr. Hanson, next question's from you.
Yeah, what do you think about a countywide unified economic development agency, or do you think that the county should have and control its own?
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm in favor of this because we're moving forward in Osceola County with just the plan that you stated, is looking at a countywide economic development plan that also takes some of the control out of the government and puts some more of the control in the business hands. Reaching out to our community to start to build an agency where we can all work on economic development as opposed to one silo of government. Far too often in the past, the City of St. Cloud has theirs, the City of Kissimmee has theirs, and we have ours. It does us no good to spread out like that. We should be working as a team and moving forward. And consolidation of an effort like that is the right way to go. I've harped on the same type of consolidation for 911 service here in Osceola County. So I think it's a good move, and hopefully we can be as successful as our neighbors to the north.
Mr. Goldmacher.
This is one point that I have to say I have to agree with my opponent. I am fully supportive of the joint effort. I've come from communities and counties that have a joint effort, and by bringing in more of the private industry into the economic development, they have some skin into the game, and they could help us bring more businesses down here and grow the economic development. We should not be competing, and the cities should not be competing against each other to develop the areas of the county. We should all be working together for the good of the entire county. We might be single districts, but we all belong as Osceola County residents.
And these will be our final two questions. Mr. McBride, you're up first.
For the voters who will decide on November 6th, candidates, why are you a better choice than your opponent?
Mr. Goldmacher.
I feel that I'm a better choice to be the next county commissioner for District 3 because I'm a businessman. I'm a successful businessman. I can deal with the businesses here in Osceola County because I can talk their language. I'm also involved with the community. I spend a lot of time, invest a lot of my time and money into the community, and I'm looking to help the residents of this county make a better life for themselves. I could do that as a businessman because I think like a businessman. I know what it's going to take to deal with low revenue and still be able to get the job done. There are other innovative ways of getting things done besides raising the sales revenue tax, or a nickel gas tax.
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you. I feel I'm the better opponent up here because I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I was born and raised here in Osceola County, and we talk about community service. My community service didn't start 2 years ago when I decided to run for office. My community service started as a young boy at the First United Methodist Church, working in the nurseries, working in day camp. Those are where my experiences have. Working for all different kinds of nonprofits, and it's like, as I said before, if you're looking for someone to wear a sash and a crown, you should vote for my opponent. That's not me. I'm a person that's going to get the work done. I put my head down, I get in the trenches, and I make things happen for Osceola County. We've been able to recover $90 million from the state of Florida that was owed to us through my service on MetroPlan. We created the Southern Operations Base through my service on Lynx. I've been able to work with a Republican board and get things done here in Osceola County, things that are good for all of us. And that's why I'm the better opponent. Not because I gave a couple bucks to a couple groups in the last 2 years, but because I've been working hard for you. I've been working hard for Osceola County for a number of years, and I will continue to do so over the next 4. Thank you very much.
And our final question of the afternoon will be from Mr. Hanson.
About 3 years ago, the county established a supplier diversity program that was originally set with a 25% minority women business enterprises participation. That percentage has never been reached. Are you a supporter of this program, and how will you increase participation?
Mr. Arrington.
Thank you. Yes, I am supportive of this program. I think it's imperative that we obviously give opportunities to minority-owned business, not only minority, but also women-owned. And we've tried to create opportunities. We're having one here very soon with the local vendors, giving opportunities for education and outreach. Because far too often, local businesses and contractors don't know where to turn. They don't know the first door to walk through. And so we've tried to reach out to our community to promote that. It's also been a big part of the Sunrail program and trying to get more folks involved in that. You're talking about a $1 billion program. The more we can spread out to local vendors and also minority vendors throughout our community is a great asset to us all. Thank you.
Mr. Goldmacher.
With the large amount of minority businesses now coming into Osceola County because that's the way the population goes, and the way the women are starting their own businesses because they have to create a second income for their homes, we should give them every opportunity and give them priority in creating jobs for the community. We should give them the business that they can do if they're qualified to do it. I believe in that program. I've always worked with that program in mind. I don't believe that we can ignore the minority businesses in this county because they're the ones who are going to grow this county.
Well, let's have a big round of applause for our panelists. They asked some great questions. And we are going to move into our closing remarks, and we will begin with Jeffrey A. Goldmacher.
I might not be a lifelong resident of Osceola County. I came down here from New York 9 years ago. And yes, I've only been involved in the community the last 3 years when I was asked to be the spokesperson for the anti-incorporation of Poinciana, and we successfully defeated that. But in those 3 years, I've been working with the community, and I think it's now time that we get the old out and bring in some fresh blood with some fresh ideas to this county. Somebody who's been experienced around in other counties and seen how other counties done things, and not going to stick with the same old that's been going on for all these years. We've doubled our population over the last 10 years. There are a lot of people now in this county that didn't grow up here. These are the people that we now are going to represent, and it's time we got their fresh ideas into the system and stop going with the good old boy network.
Mr. Arrington, your closing remarks.
Thank you. I want to first off, thank you all for coming out and be a part of the electoral process. It's very, very important that we all get educated on who we're going to be voting for. And please spread the word to your fellow community members so they understand who the best candidate is. I'm not going to offend anyone in here and say if you're from here, you shouldn't be a county commissioner. I'm not going to offend anyone here and say something about we have to get rid of old people. As far as I know, I'm the youngest commissioner on our board. So if you're looking to get rid of somebody old, I wouldn't start here. I'm the youngest chairman of MetroPlan in the history of MetroPlan. So if you're looking for somebody old, it ain't here, folks. If you're looking for vision and leadership in the next 20 years, then this is where you want to go. That's the God's honest truth. I enjoy working for you. I've loved being your county commissioner. And we've got a lot of big things to do. But here's the key. If I go away, all my ideas go with me. That's the way government works. As soon as you're out of office, your ideas go with you. So if you like my ideas, I'd hope for your support. Thank you guys very much, and thank y'all for coming out.
We really appreciate both of our candidates being willing to participate. They did a fantastic job. They stuck to the issues, and I really appreciate them showing the willingness to get involved in public service. We really appreciate that. Someone else we really appreciate are our sponsors, and I want to thank Kissimmee Utility Authority, Walt Disney World. You can applaud for those sponsors. We love them. Manhattan Construction, Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center, of course, Access Osceola. And don't forget to vote this November. We'll see you then.